Mm-hmm. This is really cool. Look at this thing. I wanted to make a video before I start carving it so I can show how it starts. It's really hard to describe this, but this was a big, thick cedar log. They're everywhere. And this piece is solid. When they break, they kind of shear off and they crack, and then it reaches a point where it just gets real thin, because as it's going, I don't know how to describe it. It kind of loses its, it's thicker and thicker, and then it gets thinner and thinner, and at some point it stops cracking along those stress points, I guess, with the grains. The way that the grains, see, go, the way it goes like that, see how the pattern it makes? It will always make this kind of pattern. And when you crack these off, when the wood is in this state, like this amount of dryness, and it's not rotted, they always end up landing on stuff around here. But look how thin that is. And it ends up looking like a sword. And this is like the best one I've gotten, because it's really long, big enough for whatever kind of handle I want to make. I can make a hand guard, carve it like handle, make a hand guard here, then the nub or whatever, I forgot what they're called. Yeah, look how thin that gets. It's surprisingly strong and sturdy, and when you start carving it, the edge gets so freaking sharp that I was making a knife, and I was thinking about The Legend of Zelda. I'm like, oh, I want to make a wooden sword, a wooden knife. Like, they had to make actual wooden knives and wooden swords and tools and different weapons and things back in the day, right? So thinking, what would they do? Well, they'd find probably a really hard piece of wood, a hard, sturdy piece of it, portion of the limb or the tree, probably a core, and use whatever tools, or I don't know, maybe just find a branch and sharpen it down until and like every other technology, it would get refined, and other people would try other things, and then it would progress, and then there would be standard ways of doing it, and other people would just innovate and like, oh, I'm gonna find a piece of something and make it sharp. Make a shank. But at some point it was like, oh, here's like the pinnacle of making things sharp. And you can see on YouTube, there's one guy, he makes knives out of everything. He will melt just about anything and everything together, and then he forms it, and then he sands it down and sharpens it just like you would sharpen any other blade. And he's like cuts through paper. But anyway, I sharpened one that I was making. It was like a short machete blade. I still have it somewhere. But the edge got so sharp and thin that I pressed down and pulled forward with my thumb and sliced my thumb open so deep on it. I was like, ow, and it just immediately started bleeding. I had no idea it would be that freaking sharp, able to penetrate my skin like that. Like, absolutely wild. It was like sharper than the knife I was using to do it. You know, the knife is metal, which is weird because one substance hardness shouldn't be able to, you know, grind away or damage another, but you can. You know, you have a sharp blade, metal, and I'm carving the wood on an angle like this, like that, you know, on an angle, and then on the other angle, and eventually you're coming to a point, and that point becomes thinner and thinner. So imagine getting like a factory edge sharpened knife from a store and just putting your thumb down on the blade when you're holding it and drawing your thumb forward like hard. Like I put a lot of pressure on it. Just, oh, I doubt it's going to do anything. I was trying to just, you know, like if you had a kid's toy and you had to press down real hard, you're like, it can't do anything to my skin. Oh, I could leave a little like mark that goes away. But no, it sliced me pretty good. But so you have to be careful with that. This is going to make a really cool blade. I want to start carving it. It's going to be really cool. I was slicing up some tall weeds with it and grasses, and it was slicing them. It was cutting them already. This is just, I didn't do anything to this. Just came off the tree just like that. The edge is pretty sharp. I don't know if you can get a view like this. See how thin that is? Crazy, right? Yeah, I'm gonna carve this thing. Let's see what happens.